Frustrated it hasn't started. We're on now, Mr.
Good morning, councillors, and welcome to this meeting of council meeting of 19th of December 2019, which is going to be our last council meeting for the year. So I'd just welcome the councillors, the staff and the media, and special welcome to Linda from the Courier, new editor of the Courier. Welcome, Linda. That's well done, you're doing that. So I'd like to call for apologies, and there is none. So extraordinary business, and I do have one item, and it is item 17. It will be Art Gallery and Heritage Centre to be taken with public excluded. It's supplementary to item 17, sorry. Yeah, so can I move in a second? Do we accept that item? Councillor McMillan.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried, thank you. Just did me think one item which we could take out of committee if council wished, and it's item 16. It's on the easement. If there is a will to take it out of committee and have it an open meeting. Item 16. Mate, we'll do the process.
Second.
We'll take the item out of committee, and I think when we do take it out, that item number 10 in there would be removed. That would be the only sensitive part. Item 10 of the report. If you had a look at item 10. Paragraph 10. Paragraph 10. So we've got a moved Councillor Mackay, seconded Councillor Falloon. Or was it the other way around? Okay. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. So item number 10 is removed and will be taken, last item of the paragraph 10, sorry. Yeah. Any declarations of interest to today's agenda? No. Move on to the minutes. And that's on page 1. Any alterations to the minutes? Councillor Cameron?
Thank you. I would like to ask for the minutes to be amended. I meant to record my vote against what was it? 5 and the amendment to Section 5 elected members' allowances and reimbursement policy. And I intended it to be recorded, but that moment passed me by.
Okay, and the amendment, where Wilson and Falloon moved and seconded, that's where you recorded your vote against?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll add that in. Thank you. No further alterations? If not, I'll move that the minutes of the council meeting of 20th November 2019 as amended be taken as read. Second up. Councillor Cameron. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. Move over to item number 5, Audit and Risk and Finance Committee meeting minutes. Any alterations? Pages 6 or 7. Someone would like to move that they be taken as read? Oh, just receiving them. So just receive those minutes.
I'm quite happy to do that.
Yep. Councillor Brown, seconder. Councillor McMillan. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Over to item number 6, review of speed limits. And we have Neil and Martin. Are there any questions of them first? Councillor Cameron.
You just refer to people that have made submissions with regards to requesting the council review the speed limits. How many public submissions did you have?
We haven't yet.
Or if submission's the wrong word, but how many public? Yeah.
Okay, yes, all right. I can't give you an exact number. We received this over the period since the last review, so I'd say majority will be the feedback will be in the review, and yeah, and those are the ones that we have made the speed limit changes. Some of them have written petitions as well, so if I were to count them in, then it's kind of going to be over hundreds. Yep. Yep.
you. Are we going to go through the maps piece by piece today, or just generalising? Just because I have a question around about the speed limit down at Lake Hood.
Oh, there we go. Don't think we should go through them one by one. It's going out for submissions. So when we have the hearing, if we get submissions, there'll be a hearing. That's when we will go through them one by one. So I don't think it's appropriate now to do that because we're not changing anything. We've had our opportunity at it through the workshop. So it's now going out to the public for their feedback on them. And let's hope we have some feedback. I think we will.
Sorry, supplementary. So my...
Oh, you need to go on.
Turn the light off. My question was just around the one piece at Lake Hood. Sorry, that was off. My question was right at the beginning of the review proposes to, and it was just about the piece at Lake Hood Drive where we're proposing to put something up to 80 k's, which I didn't think was appropriate. Or
To handle that, then someone from Lake Hood or Councillor Rawlinson could put a submission in herself.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have an opportunity once all the submissions have come through, and councillors can then engage in those discussions and decide from there what you'd like to do with change. Yeah.
right, thanks.
Councillor Lovett?
I'm just going to ask, is this going to coincide with the school's 40 k's around the school, or is it going to sort of come after the consultation? It's not going to come in with this at all?
At this stage, we don't believe it will.
It's almost Christmas.
We expect the schools one will probably come a bit later. It's hard to know exactly, but we're proceeding anyway. Yep.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. My question is, why are we changing from 70 to 60? I've read the report. NZTA are not doing it on their roads. We have to do it if we bring in new speed limits or new areas. It doesn't say, as far as I read it, that we have to go back and change from 70 to 60 when there's actually a 70 already there.
So pretty much NCTA want us to align it with their kind of their GPS and also their kind of speed policy to kind of remove the 70s and 90k zones within the whole national region. They, for their state highway, it's up for them for when they're going to change it. So we're just kind of, going forward, there will be no more 70 or 90s.
The supplementary, that's not a good explanation. If NZTA are not doing it, why are we doing it? We're going to spend all that money to change to 60, and we're not forced to at the moment. And to me, the speed limit changes should have been for those that people submitted. Maronan Road, Hollands Road, places like that. Why are we going to 60 when we don't have to go to 70? Why are we leading the pack?
Look, it's just a recommendation to put out for consultation. We just think that we're preempting what we believe is going to be inevitable and happen further down the track. And it's for that reason we're putting that out for consultation, but happy to take comments in the consultation phase, and if the decision's made not to proceed with it, then we're happy to move on with that.
Thanks for that. Councillor Mackay?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The workshop must have been held some time ago on this, so I would like to know what is the cost, because I know some roads one would be pushing to get above the present speed limits on it. For example, if you go down Company Road and turn on to Ashford Avenue, you've got 45 metres of which to get up to 70 or 80 k's. Then you've got to slow down by the time you get to the sign. So that's a pretty big ask. So there's going to be some signs go up, even in around Braybrook. There's going to have to be some signs go up. So there must be a cost. What is that cost, please?
Through the chair, the cost for installing all the signage, approximately 120,000. It is too much to do all at once. And in terms of our budget, we would obviously look at prioritising where we have the most crash data and start with those and implement them perhaps over 2 or 3 years.
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. You get quite a lot of requests for the changing of the speed limits. What are the main reasons? Can you say this is the main reason why we get a lot of requests to change it? Like safety, schools? What is the reason for the people to ask for it?
Majority of it is actually urban development, since for example, there'll be like Mifflin of the new subdivision coming in, and we feel that it's more safe and appropriate to extend our 50k zone further. Other places like, for example, Ronan Bridge, there have been 2 fatal accidents over there, so we feel that road users aren't really driving at the safe and appropriate speed, so we will put speed limit there to enforce those areas. So the main driving cause is crash data and also urban development for the street review. From the public. And also additional public's concern as well, as have been included into and I just matched to what is the safe and appropriate speed for their concerned roads.
Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for including the roads outside Mount Somers Springburn School, because I know they've been concerned about the speed limit past there for quite a while. But there's just one change you may need to make on speed changes from 70 to 50 in Methven on Forest Drive. There's no intersection with Car Street, so Car Street goes onto Spaxton Street, not onto Forest Drive, and I didn't pick it up. Someone from the public emailed me, so I missed it in our workshop. So it says Forest Drive, and then it's just got the Car Street at the bottom there. So just maybe a typo.
We'll look into that.
Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you.
Just thinking about Councillor Mackay's, looks like an anomaly, going to 50 is then to 70, then back to 50 again. I think that's what he was talking. Should that be adjusted as well?
I was just giving an example, Mr. Mayor. I was actually after the cost for 35 metres or 45 metres. It just seemed, I know there is some nice flexes there, and people do park at that corner, but there's a cost to it.
Right. Thank you for that.
Probably mean you'd have to go around the corner about 90.
Okay. What's the closing date for submissions? I can't see it in the report, but it may be there. Tony?
Thank you, through the Mayor. So from an engagement perspective, we are planning on opening consultation from the 27th of January and closing it on the 8th of March. So giving this a full 6 weeks of consultation, given that it's first engagement back after Christmas. If we try to do it all within February, you could have a response from schools that actually we are just so busy getting ourselves organised in the school world that we haven't had a chance with our boards or committees to provide good feedback. So we are going a little bit outside the normal and thinking of a 6-week consultation period.
Okay, thanks for that. The other question I have, there's no maps of Chertsey or Hinds, and there's no roads in the schedule for Chertsey or Hinds or the surrounding areas. And the reason being, I presume, is that there's no changes. Would that be correct for that area, those areas?
Yeah, that's correct, and that's because there's no crash data in those areas, and we don't see the need to put any changes in those areas, so they haven't been included. But if anyone is concerned and they do want to submit, they're welcome to.
Yeah, so if someone from Chertsey or Hines thinks that there should be a lower or higher speed limit there,
Correct.
then they can put a submission in.
Yes, welcome to, yeah.
Yep, on their particular road they're concerned of. Yep. Any further questions, councillors? We have a recommendation there. Would someone like to move? Councillor Lovett?
Thank you.
Councillor Brown, second?
Yes, I will second it.
Now open for debate. And we'll take them all 1, 2, 3 in a row. Yep. Okay. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm opposed, especially number 2. The council agrees with the proposed locations for speeds. The council hasn't had any say. It's purely a staff proposal. We had a workshop, but we weren't allowed to actually, as Councillor Ronson's already said, there are things in there that I don't agree with. We had the submissions for various things. I thought that's what we're going to do. It's not I didn't think we were going to do this blanket thing over the whole district. For example, 60k away out the airport to me is ridiculous. There's lots of things, local knowledge will come into it that says, in principle, it's fine, but in reality, do you expect people, it'll be nothing but revenue gathering for somebody down the road here. I'm disappointed that councillors haven't had a chance to locally say, like a Lakehood, as Councillor Ronson said, have some input.
Councillor
It's
Wilson,
all very easy.
direct to me now. They've finished.
Yeah.
Direct to me.
It's all very easy to say, let's go to consultation. That motion says the council agrees with the proposed location and speed limits. Well, I don't agree. So that's I would have it that this is a staff proposal. It's not a council law proposal.
Councillor Brown.
I can't see a problem with it, Mr Mayor. It tells us that we are quite happy with what is being proposed to us, but the public has the last word. So as far as it stands in 1, 2 and 3, I'm more than happy to take it as it is.
I would have to support this too, because I think it's a great start. Staff have done a great job. We've done a great overview of it, and I think the public will have their say. And you've got to make a start somewhere. So, no, I'm in favour.
Councillor Floon.
I support Councillor Wilson and his comments.
Councillor Mackay.
Mr Mayor, I have found sometimes that because council agrees with a proposal, people say, oh, there's no need, council have already made up their mind. So on that basis, I move an amendment that the recommendation only be 1 and 3.
So you're recommending item number 2 is removed.
No, I'm not recommending that. I'm recommending that the recommendation...
Push your light on. Put your light on.
I'm recommending that the recommendation... I'm moving an amendment. The recommendation will be item 1 and 3. I'm trying not to be negative, sir.
Okay. Can you state the recommendation you wish?
That council receives the proposals for the speed limit review for local roads in the district, and that council proceeds to public consultation for the proposed speed limit changes as shown within the spreadsheet attached and corresponding district and township maps.
I'll second that.
Move in a second for the amendment. Any debate on that? If not, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So the amendment now becomes the motion. Right. So that now becomes the motion. And we need a second, move in a second for that motion. Oh, sorry. We just put the motion. The debate's had. We'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Item number 7, Localism, New Zealand, submission. Tony, would you like to add anything or take questions, please?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, I have apologies from Rachel Thomas, who is actually the author of this report, and to be fair, has probably had a far closer involvement with the preparation of the submission than I have. So she's away at home with an unwell wee chap this morning. I'm assuming that you've taken this as read. I'm happy to answer questions.
Questions? I just have one, and on page 42, at number 33, and it may be a typo. It says, we also suggest returning the general sales tax. Should that be a goods and service tax?
Yes, you're right. We'll fix that.
Okay. Councillor Lovett?
That was the one I found too. And I was just going to ask about the well-beings, because it's a real whiffy-woffy sort of a thing. Is there, when the previous governments were in, did they state what the well-beings were? Because now no one can define what is well-beings. Did it used to be defined?
Thank you. Through the Chair. The short answer is no, and that's been quite intentional because a well-being for our community can be really different to, say, Gisborne, for example. So well-being is very community-specific, and it's about us identifying what is important for our community.
So, Tony, this report has been, the submission has been given to Local Government New Zealand. So when it goes to them, what are they going to do with it once they've received it?
Through the Chair, next year, Local Government New Zealand will take all this feedback on board, and then they'll actually release to central government and to the public what their view is on localism and what they feel should be being taken into account from a central government perspective.
No further questions? Councillor Falloon.
There's a lot of good stuff in this, but a lot of it is touchy-feely sort of bullshit. However, the thing I'd like to know is, if we get more localism, are we going to get the funds to come with it? Because we know that central government do like to devolve responsibilities down to local authorities. And if we say, well, we want to have more localism, and some of that is good stuff that's in here, where is the funding going to come from for that?
I presume that will be in, the submission is going to Local Government New Zealand, which will then feed on to the government. So I think it's in there. It talks about funds coming with it, needing funds to come with it.
They talk about it, but they don't actually say how. And I mean, this is the problem that worldwide we're having, where everything local is left up to ratepayers, and how do we get a sharing between local authorities and central government on all the taxes which are picked up? And it's not just a New Zealand problem.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, the concept of funding and central government sharing financial resources is a completely related but parallel work stream, and we've recently seen the Productivity Commission doing that piece of work as to how central government might share resources with local government, and we've seen the Productivity Commission stop short of any significant recommendations, and even if they had made significant recommendations, you still have to get the government to consider that. And the history says that it's unlikely there will be dramatic new funding streams for local government. So we just have to get on with our work, and we've got obligations to consider the well-beings in the Local Government Act. So whether we agree or disagree with the priority that they have for our scarce resources is a separate debate, but we have to consider them, we're obliged to. And we have to do so in the absence of likely new funding streams. That's our lot, that's our reality that we must deal with.
Councillor Mackay.
Mr Mayor, the question I have is paragraph 42 the way in which we can source government funding? Because if it is, to me, that means that one can apply, but Wellington would actually choose what we get, and I don't like the accountability for that. Am I correct?
Presume, no.
Paragraph 42 is a proposal, a could, maybe. It's not set in stone.
No further questions? Oh, Councillor McMillan?
No, there was no further questions.
Okay,
Sorry, I was
right,
going
moving on.
to move the recommendation, but just the last few years at either local government conferences or even at the community board conferences, we've had Dr. Mike Reid talk passionately about localism. So I think it's great that we've got a submission to go through to LGNZ. So I would like to move the recommendation that council receives the report and approves the submission to LGNZ regarding localism New Zealand.
Okay, have a seconder. Councillor
Yes,
Rawlinson?
I'd like to second it and commend Rachel and Tony on their presentation of this report.
Okay. Councillor Latham, you had your light on before for question. Did you have your light on before? I think. Yes, I did, but okay, fine. That's good. Yep. So any further debate? Councillor Mackay.
Mr Mayor, I move an amendment. I'm on a roll today. I move an amendment that paragraph 42 be deleted, in saying that government, if I was clear that government was going to provide some funding with this, I may be prepared to leave it in. But Wellington picking winners for this district, I believe, is not an option going forward. So I agree with a lot of what's in the well-written submission. So I'm moving an amendment that paragraph 42 be deleted.
Is there
Because
a
that could be the way they do it instead of giving us funding across the board.
is there a seconder for that amendment? It's lost through lack of a seconder. But this submission's to local government New Zealand, not to the government. Yep. Yep. Okay. So the original recommendation stands. Any further debate on it? If not, I'll put the recommendation. I'm in favour. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Done. Thank you. Congratulations. It's a well-written report. Oh. One against, recorded. He's not too worried. Item number 8. We have a petition on dog control signage at the business park. And a petition was presented to me some time ago, 3-4 weeks ago, and Heather Cullimore and Tom Stapleton actually delivered the petition to me and talked to me about it. And some of the points they brought up at the time was that Hagley Park, you allowed the dogs off leads there. And they also mentioned that they have no rubbish bins at the North East Park for the rubbish or for the dog rubbish, and wondering why. And also Mr. Stapleton heads out there to exercise his dog, and he's on a mobility scooter, and he comes from the middle of town somewhere and drives out, and the roads getting there are not that great either. It's an industrial estate he has to go through to get there. So he just made those points to me when he did visit, so just passing those on. So is there any questions on the report you have in front of you? We have Ms. Donaldson in attendance. Councillor Lovett.
I was just going to ask, when they last did this policy, how wide did you go, thinking of the future with dogs? Because, I just know Rakaia wanting to do one out there, and was it a whole district-wide thing, and where the subdivisions are going, or was it just kind of on what you had, just looking at a desktop or something review?
Thank you. Through the chair, it was a fairly involved engagement process. So there was focus groups that were used to help determine where the dog exercise areas should be, as well as a formal consultation process that was advertised widely throughout the district. And it was an across-team project. So it was discussed with planning. It was discussed with the dog control team as well, very widely and extensively.
So this, Councillor Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was approached by one of the people out there, as soon as my name went up that I'd been elected, I was approached about this matter, and the complaint seemed to be was all of a sudden the sign's gone up prohibiting having dogs not on a leash. Do we signpost all those areas, or do we do it as a blanket thing that all dogs must be on a leash unless they're in a dog park or dog area, and perhaps it's the ignorance of the public or our communications that's caused the problem?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think that's a good question, because I think that gets to the heart of what the issue is, and I think we need to keep trying to do more on the education front, because you're not allowed a dog anywhere in Ashburton off leash unless it is designated as a dog exercise area. And I think a lot of the public don't seem to realise that, and we've put the signs up in areas where we've been having quite significant problems with dogs being off leash and attacking other dogs, people, and the like. And people see the sign and their reaction is, oh, the council's just made this a place where you can't have your dog off the lead, whereas in fact you've never been allowed. So I think we do need to do more on the education front, and we've just produced a dog owner's manual that's on the website, and we're also making sure anybody that registers a new dog gets a copy of that, just to try and make people more aware of what the rules actually are.
Councillor Floon.
Yeah, I support the recommendation because it is due to come up before, I think it is, the bylaw and bylaw committee at the later part of next year. So to me, that's not too long to wait. I know I have some very specific ideas on dogs. But the part that got me on this one was the final sentence of clause 17. The signage does not introduce a new rule or regulation, but simply communicates the existing requirement to restrain dogs as per the dog control bylaw.
Yep. Councillor Cameron.
Does the bylaw support, like, dogs must be on a leash and dogs must be under effective control? Can they be married on this particular bylaw, or is one different from the other? Like, where we've got dogs must be on a leash, would we be changing the bylaw if we change the sign to dogs must be under effective?
You should have to change the bylaw, because even when your dog, if you're in an area where your dog doesn't need to be on a leash, it still has to be under effective control. So if you've got a dog that's just one of those real idiots that won't do anything that you say, and you've got no control over it, then you probably not let it off the leash. But yeah, so it is different and it is defined.
Sure. Supplementary.
So Christchurch City Council, their bylaw is different from our bylaw, and they adopted that different bylaw like years ago. So okay. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. My question is there anything to stop them going outside urban boundary? We haven't got any rules in rural areas as far as dogs on leashes or not?
It's all public places, so it doesn't matter whether it's in town or out of town. If it's on a road, that's a public place. But running around a farmer's paddock is fine, it's on private property.
Councillor Brown.
Yeah, part of the question was answered with Christchurch, but what are other cities doing in New Zealand? Are we alone in what we're doing?
Certainly, I haven't done a whole lot of homework on that for this meeting, but that's certainly something that would come up when we do the review. There are a lot of councils that have very strict rules. We're certainly not out of kilter with anybody else. And when you see the results of dog attacks on children, it does make you think twice about having really lenient rules. We have had our share of dog attacks in this district.
Just remembered, I should have also mentioned that when Mr Stapleton, he doesn't use the dog parks now, the ones with fences around them, because he can't get his mobility scooter in it's not mobility scooter friendly. So that's something to probably keep at the back of your mind. Perhaps we may make them mobility scooter friendly.
I think we certainly should keep that in mind, but I'd just point out that there's also a cost issue, and if we're going to significantly raise the level of service, there will be budget implications, and the dog control account is in deficit. It's still in deficit from building the pound.
And the other thing is, on the website, if you looked at the bylaw, which is on the website and other places, there's maps there. So there are other maps which could, other places which could be used, which are not fenced, and the dog can roam freely. And I see Mr. Riak has some of those maps there now. But my question is, instead of reviewing the bylaw, if there was a will to let dogs roam off the leash at the northeast in a certain area, could we just amend the schedule and not amend the bylaw?
No, we couldn't. We would have to go through the full process.
You would?
Because there are people, I've had emails and phone calls from people who don't support this, so if you just tried to shortcut it and change something without giving everybody a say, that would not work out.
Didn't want to shortcut it, just thought it might have been an easier process, but probably the same thing,
We
really.
should be so lucky.
Yeah. Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. Mr Mayor, you mentioned about the bins.
Oh, yes.
Well, there not being any bins out there. Do we want to have bins in that area, or do we want to encourage people to actually take their own rubbish home, which I think would probably be a better idea?
Yeah, you may know, Jane, there's obviously no bins out there, and dogs do go out there, but they need to be on a leash. So if the dog has a movement, then they need to take that home because there's no bin there. Have we any plans to put any bins there?
No, we don't. There's been quite a lot of debate around the country about not just bins but bags. People complain quite often that there aren't any bags, but a lot of councils take the view it's your dog. It's not for the ratepayer to be paying for bags. You bring your own bags and you take your own rubbish home. Before I started here, apparently there was a bit of a thing going on at the main dog park where my predecessor very much did not believe in providing bins, that to minimising waste you should all take your own waste home and dispose of it there. And so people used to put the bag full of you-know-what and tie it all onto the fence down at the dog park so that as you drove past on State Highway 1, you had this wonderful vista of full plastic bags. Then there was a new environmental monitoring manager who was of a different view and went ahead and provided a bin, but those are the sort of extremes you can get. I don't have a strong view either way, really.
So there's bins down on the dog parks now?
There is we've only got two official dog parks, the Methven and the one down by the river. They both have bins. We've got a very unofficial one next to the Resource Recovery Park, which is sort of an unofficial dog exercise area, fully fenced, and there is a bin there, and there are bags. There are bins at some of the dog exercise areas, like Devon Park and Argyle Park, but not at every dog exercise area.
So that unofficial exercise area you talk about, when we review the bylaw, whenever we do it, that would be part of that bylaw review, that area?
I don't think I can, because I'd need to have another talk to Craig Goodwin about that. He sort of developed that as a really good use of a piece of land that you can't really do anything with, but it is first and foremost a former landfill site which is subject to really strict ECAN conditions, and from time to time it needs to be shut. People were complaining recently that it hadn't been mowed for a while, but again, our stance is that it is not an official dog park or dog exercise area, and the management of that site as a former landfill is what takes priority. So I don't think it would be suitable for us to include in there unless we made it very clear that it was, not on a permanent basis.
Okay. So no further questions. The recommendation is someone like to move, and as it is, the recommendation is that the bylaw gets reviewed as scheduled in 2021, unless you want to change that. But Councillor Flynn?
move it.
You move as is?
Yep.
Councillor Latham, second. Open for debate. Councillor Rawlinson.
Yes, excuse me, I'd like to just add into the debate. I think we do need to proceed with caution because although there are people who are good with their dogs, we still have attacks. We had a lady attacked down on the river trail 2 weeks ago with a dog that was off lead and attacked her and her dog, and she's trying to push a pram and hold a dog, and wasn't very pretty. So, and we have had attacks in Allington. So I think that although it might be a feel-good thing to say yes, the dogs can all be off the lead, but I believe that at this point in time they can't, and we need to wait until we have more thought and review it properly.
Councillor Cameron?
As a proportion of population, our number of we've got one dog park, proper fenced dog park in Ashburton. How do we fit with regards to the rest of the country in terms of number of dog parks per head count? No. People love their dogs. And people want their dogs to have a run around, and this seems a relatively limited amount of possibility for that in this town. Given that dog park, and a lot of people are on mobility, we're an ageing population, a lot of people are on mobility scooters. It seems we either have to somehow make the dog park more accessible to people in mobility scooters or in wheelchairs or whatever, or provide another opportunity for people to exercise their dogs off lead.
Yeah. We're in debate mode, so time for questions is gone. No. Well, it probably is, but it's too late. We're debating. Yeah. So, councillors, I'll put the motion. I'm in favour. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Be reviewed as scheduled. Thank you, ladies. Item number 9. Canterbury Local Authorities Triennial Agreement. And Hamish, is it? Philippa, Hamish? Hamish.
Happy to respond to any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Mackay.
I haven't got a question.
If there's being no questions, I think you may like to move.
I'll move, Mr. Chairman. I believe it's important that we ratify this agreement. It is basically, in my opinion, a communication document where mayors come together and communicate right across Canterbury. One of the standout agreements that led from this agreement years ago was the Canterbury Water Management Strategy, which has had a big effect on the production and environmental controls in Canterbury. I think it's brilliant the way the mayors can communicate through this agreement. I recommend councillors pass it.
Second it?
Second it.
Yeah, and I've attended one of these meetings so far, and it's a powerful organisation when you get 10 Canterbury mayors and one chair together, all thinking along the same lines. You do have some power with central government, so this agreement is important and needed. Yeah. Any further debate? If not, I'll put the motion. I'm in favour. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Item number 10. Reserve and Hall Boards triennial meetings. Councillor McMillan.
Thank you. I just have a question, and that was with the Mount Hutt Memorial Hall Board and the Methven Reserve Board. And Philippa may be able to answer this for me. So the Mount Hutt Memorial Hall Board, we have Calvin Holmes as the Methven Community Board representative, but his name wasn't on that list. And the Methven Reserve Board also nominated Ron Smith, who's also on the Methven Community Board, to sit on the Methven Reserve Board as a connection with the Community Board. So I don't know if they were missed, but if they could be added, that would be great. Thank you.
So they just need to be added. That's fine, Philippa. That's Kosher, good. Thank you. And Councillor Wallinson.
Just on the Pendarvis Reserve Board, it's got the Councillor Lovett, but in fact it's myself who's the appointee.
Okay. We'll change it. Councillor Mackay.
Mr Chairman, I move and with a alteration that in item 2 that council approves the amended appointments submitted by each of the boards in the detailed report.
Council approves the amended. Yep, we can leave it as is. The amendments will be, the names will be added. Councillor Wilson.
No, I got a question.
Oh, so we're going to need a seconder. I've had a mover.
I've got a question.
Okay, we'll get a seconder. Councillor Rawlinson, seconded. Councillor Wilson.
Yes, I thought there was a maximum of 7 people on a reserve board. Or is the number unlimited?
It's not no,
Yeah.
Practice with the Tunwell Reserve Board particularly.
So when we,
Councillor Wilson.
when we appoint these boards, should we appoint the 7 that are elected and the co-opted ones, or do they just keep on, go on, do they become members if they, so they come 10 names, do we just accept the 10?
So I'm sorry. So this has come to light, and it's part of what we think may be a consideration when the constitutions are looked at, because it's apparent that some boards have struggled to get the minimum number and others have co-opted throughout various terms of council. So there are various things that have been revealed and the constitutions appear to look as, so they need to be reviewed, which may be an opportunity to look at the restricting or expanding the number of members.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Paragraph 3 in the background, board members nominated at the public meeting must be eligible. What is the eligibility?
Okay, so there are some basic requirements similar to an elected member. Those people would need to be an elector in the area, and they would need to be on a roll. So there are some other situations, I guess, where people are excluded from standing for public office.
I was just answering a question to Councillor Wilson. When you've got 8 people sitting in a room at these small communities, it is very hard to take 7 and leave 1, and we need to be able to keep that ability. If they're all willing to do it, you take the lot, you don't have one sitting on the outside. So we kind of need that flexibility. And I'd actually like to say Claire Harden, she's doing a wonderful job of coming to all the meetings, and there's really got some great consistency there. So going forward, I think we're on a win, and we'll get a lot of things sorted. Yeah, she's doing a great job.
Yeah, that support was a long time coming, but now it's here. It's proving its worth.
It's proving its worth. Yeah.
Yep, that's good. So the recommendation is there. I've had a mover and a seconder. No further debate. I'll put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. Item number 11, the Mayor's report. I'll move that we receive the report.
Second.
Seconded Councillor Mackay. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the recommendation that the council receive the Mayor's report. All in favour, please say aye. Carried. That takes us, doesn't quite take us to the end. We've got item number.
We've got number 16 coming forward, and I've just asked Tanya to come over. Tanya Paddock.
Right.
Are there any items in the Mayor's report that you want to discuss? Councillor Mackay want to talk about them?
Oh, yes. Just on the Mayor's report, Councillor Mackay, you gave a report on the regional Water Committee, and thank you for attending. I think Councillor Wilson attends with you, and a great report, which is excellent. Because it's a shared committee with Selwyn, you're representing us, Ashburton District and Selwyn, we will forward a copy of that report to Selwyn on your behalf and keep them up to date. And from time to time, they may wish for you to attend their meeting to give a report as well, as the representative last term did for us at sometimes.
Good and good.
Good. Thank you for that. So the next item is number 16. Okay, and Tanya and Colin are here. That's the item we are taking out of committee. Request for easements, New Zealand Transport Agency. Has the media had a copy yet of that report?
There were 2 copies on the printer and I've emailed it, but someone can grab
There's 2 copies on the printer for you.
Thanks.
And item number 10 is removed. So we have a request there for easement, and it's a request which is normally quite simple, but there's more to this than meets the eye, so to speak. And those who attended the road safety meeting a couple of weeks ago, it was flagged there that NZTA wished to put a heavy truck weigh station in on the northern side of the Rakai Bridge, and roughly in between the 2 bridges. It was flagged there that that is an inappropriate place to put a weigh station to pull trucks in to weigh them, and then weigh and penalise if need be and send on their way. So this is a small piece of a bigger picture, and if we allow this today, it will be sort of giving a green light to something which is not appropriate, I believe. And that weigh station is not in the Ashburton district, it's on the Selwyn district. The Selwyn mayor I met with Tuesday, Wednesday, and alerted him to it. So he's had the same view that it's not appropriate to be there. So he has emailed Jim Harland at NZTA asking for explanation. It seems, and this weigh station seems a good idea, but in the wrong place. We have land at Rakai, which is industrial. It could be put in there if they want it. Yeah, there's other options, and I think they need to be explored. So by denying this request today, or letting this matter lie on the table, would help to see that common sense prevails at the end of the day. Councillor Mackay.
Mr Mayor, I'm of a similar view to you and have extensive notes, but I don't think it's necessary to go into that today. I move that this matter lay on the table.
Until... But before I take that... I'm not going to take that recommendation yet until I've heard from councillors. So I'll call for a mover of something later, but I'd like to hear from councillors first. Councillor Rawlinson.
So we can make comments, we don't
Yes.
have to ask a question. Having sat in through the Road Safety Committee too, I agree that I think this is a highly dangerous place to put a weigh station. I'm sure if a member of the public or a farmer wanted to put something on the main highway like as significant as this, it would be denied by NZTA, and I think they're going against their own safety principles by putting this in that short space of road. If they're going to turn northbound trucks into a right-hand turning right in that short space of road, I can see the potential for a lot of accidents there.
We can only assume what they're going to do because we've got no plans. We just heard that they're going to put one somewhere there. So, Tanya.
Through you, Mr Mayor, would it be helpful if I gave you an update on what's happening on the Selwyn side in terms of
Oh,
consenting?
that might help, yeah. Okay, thank you, Tony.
So, on the Selwyn side, there's a similar land use consent application for a sign, so that's a very minor resource consent application, which is just being held up with QRail approval. A notice of requirement to designate the new area, which I understand NZTA have got under agreement to purchase with a private landowner, so that's where the vehicle station is going. So the agreement's been signed up, and the notice of requirement for the new designation was lodged yesterday with Selwyn District Council. So the works that are happening in the state highway itself already fall under the current designation, but because there's a new piece of land that's being acquired, Selwyn have got to go through the process in terms of that notice of requirement designation. So NZTA are required to apply for a notice of requirement. The council go through its normal processing, deciding whether it notifies or processes it non-notified, and then it will go to either, I suspect it will be an independent decision maker who makes a recommendation to NZTA on the designation, and then NZTA, as a requiring authority, decides whether or not to accept that recommendation. So it's very different to a resource consent process. And you'll be aware similar process happened in Ashburton with the second bridge. So that's the process that's happening. In terms of the safety, I've got a copy of the notice of requirement, so I can circulate that if you like. Obviously, transport safety is one of the key issues discussed in that application. I understand within the designated state highway itself, there's a safety audit that's been done, and it's partway through its process, so that is discussed in the notice of requirement. And there's recommendations that are being made as part of that safety audit for how NZTA will deal with particularly right-turning traffic from North Rakai Road onto the state highway. Numbers of traffic are discussed in that notice of requirement, and they're not high. So they're proposing around 4 to 6% of heavy traffic will actually be pulled off the road. So in peak times, for example, between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. in the morning, it might be up to 9 trucks will be pulled off the state highway. So potentially 5 heading north and 4 heading south. So appreciate, that the big vehicles, but we're not talking high numbers of traffic. So hopefully that assists, but I completely understand this process is being done in advance of a consenting process and a designation process in Selwyn. So.
Yeah, thanks for that update, but 10 vehicles in an hour, that's 6 vehicles, and that's one every 10 minutes, and getting it back onto the road and climbing the rail overbridge will slow traffic back for God knows how long. But I was just wondering, probably a question for the Chief Executive, has our roading team had a look at it to see if it's acceptable? Would our roading team need to have a look at it? It's not in our district, I know that.
It's not in our district and it's not on our road. So we might have a view of what's safe on the state highway, but it's not a matter that our roading team would be actively involved in outside of our district and a state highway. It's just not our roading team's piece of cheese, really.
A view only. Councillor McMillan. Councillor Lovett.
Yes, I was not going to support it either, because I think it's if there's accidents, it's too short a space and trucks trying to get up onto that overbridge. If there's going to be accidents, it's just going to back right back through Rakai, and it will become a problem to us. And I know New Zealand Caravan Association, they're sort of getting worried now there's a lot of camper vans and buses that people live in that are overweight. Are they going to start pulling all them in, hauling them in as well as the trucks? So it could become a busy place, and yeah, I just worry it's an accident waiting to happen if we allow it, if they go ahead with it in that short space of road.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question. I understand what you're saying, but do you know where the places they'd like to place the weighbridge? Because that doesn't fit in between the two parts. Is it past the overbridge on the Christchurch side or not? Or is it really going in between the bridge and the overbridge?
So the vehicle station where
Yes.
traffic will pull off, as you're heading north, after you come across the Rakai Bridge, the first road on the right is North Rakai Road.
That's correct.
So it'll be between North Rakai Road and the Rakai River, so on the south side. So. And then there's proposals for how they're going to deal with the state highway around that area, which is part of the detailed safety audit that's underway at the moment. So.
Do they In that report, does it mention that there would be in a floodplain? I have a floodplain. I have seen the water flowing through that road between those two bridges when the Rakaia River floods.
Through the Mayor, yes, there's a discussion around building height and raising the ground levels.
The professionals, I presume. Councillor Cameron?
Did they look at other places to put this way station?
So as part of the notice of requirement, there's a requirement to consider alternatives, and there is a section in the notice of requirement around that, and they've decided this is the best location, so.
And given the mortality and crash rate and all the rest of it on that State Highway 1, that seems a very ill-conceived position to take, I would have thought. Yeah.
Councillor Wilson?
Yes. Are we debating the same thing that's on the north end of the bridge? It seems to be set in the road. There won't be any, on our side of the river, there'll be no going off the road, or it'll just be, as far as normal travellers go, all we'll see is a couple of little marks in the road and perhaps a camera up on a wall. So it's not actually going to affect us in our district as far as traffic at all, does it?
That's correct.
Yeah, no effect for us for what they're asking for. It's an easement to put a sign up. It's the flow-on effects. That's what we're just getting questions on, because we're question time. Councillor Lethem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is we are only being asked for an easement to erect a sign. Is that correct?
Correct.
Even though we may all agree the situation or the location of the Way Bridge, so to speak, is ridiculous. But we are only being asked for an easement to put the sign up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do we then take it upon ourselves to prejudge what NZTA does, or are we getting ourselves all upset and bogged down on something that's not under our control?
It's not, you're right, it's not under our control, but we're governors of this district, and we're not roading engineers, but we can see it doesn't look right.
I agree.
Yeah, so this is one step. If we allow this, that is one step in allowing that to happen, I assume.
Yeah, no, just to confirm that position, if it didn't require this council's permission to put a sign up, i.e. the easement, then they wouldn't be talking to us. And our only opportunity for making the points that we think were important would be via our advocacy role and making the point in the normal way that we might do. But they have come to us seeking an easement across our land to put up this sign. So that creates an opportunity for council to express a view by the way in which we treat the application for an easement for a sign. So that's the avenue to make a point in this case. Otherwise, it would simply be an advocacy role.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron?
One question and one comment, please. If we don't allow for the easement to put the big sign up at the approach to the Rakaia Bridge, then the way station will not be able to go where it is going to go. Is that correct?
Through the Mayor, they'll have to find an alternate place for the sign. So there is other works that are happening in the Ashburton district in terms of an in-road way bridge, but they're all within the state highway designation. So that work will likely proceed anyway. All we're talking about here is one sign, and that may have to find an alternate location.
And that leads me to my comment. It may be one sign, and we have no jurisdiction on the north side of the Rakaia River, but people from Mid-Canterbury drive over the Rakaia Bridge, and people from Mid-Canterbury are at risk of increased accidents with big curtain-siders turning left and right on the road. So personally, I'm aligned with the rest of the council.
Councillor Floon?
The point that Councillor Lethem makes is dead correct. It is just a technical point that they are asking for an easement. But I think in these days now where we've got to look at well-being, what we're doing is looking at the well-being of road users.
Councillor McMillan?
Thank you. At the road safety meeting, we heard from John Keenan from NZTA, who brought this up. I think it was just kind of as part of his report. but he said there was only one other weigh station in Canterbury, and that was on Glasnevin Strait near Waipara. So, and if you've ever been up there, that's a great straight road and really clear, easy access. So this is the exact opposite, I think. But have they already purchased the land, and is there an alternate site that we could perhaps suggest in our district that could be a better site?
Yeah, we could suggest a better site, and that is in Rakaia. The southern side of Rakaia is zoned industrial land. If you note the Ravensdown building, somewhere in there, that land behind there is all industrial. It could go in there. They would obviously have to purchase the land, but that would look like a better place to go than where they're proposing it there. Yeah. So thank you for the discussion. What we need to do with this recommendation now is do something with it. If we let it lie on the table, it's a question, we would need to lift it at some stage. So what information, if we let it lie on the table, what information would we require? Or do we just deny this? Or do we pass it? Councillor Mackay.
Those two thoughts went through my head, Mr Chair, and we are actually reliant on other departments of NZTA for various functions inside this district. I was going to be kind enough and allow it to lie on the table, and maybe I could add until the other issues have been resolved. And the other issues are, they've got 2 consents to get and designations, etc., etc., etc. They've got a long road, so we can wait to near the end, but we also send a signal that we're not happy.
Yeah.
It's a middle of the road option.
Yep.
To say no is, I think, just pretty blunt and takes any option for negotiation out of the equation.
So Councillor Mackay has moved that we let the matter lie on the table until they go through the other stages, and once that is completed, they come back and we get lifted off the table and we make a decision. Seconder for that?
I would support that.
Okay, and we put the motion, it lies on the table.
Can I speak to that motion?
There's no debate.
Oh,
There's no debate on it. It's lying on the table. Put the motion, it can lie on the table. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. One opposed. Two opposed. Two opposed. Okay. Recording it. Record your votes against. One recorded event against. Councillor Wilson. So I suppose you can see now why I wanted that out of committee and have a discussion on it in the public. So yeah, that's good. So that takes us to the end of open meeting, doesn't it? It does.
It does. You might just want to say while we're in open meeting that the council has to resume at 1 o'clock open meeting for the MAR project.
Okay. Council will resume at 1 o'clock, and we have Peter Lowe and Brett Painter coming in for 1 o'clock. Public, yeah, for a update on the MAR project, or MAR report. So, media, if you want to come back at 1 o'clock, more than welcome. Once again, we are well ahead of time. We're going to move into committee and deal with that. So, if you want to come back 1 o'clock, more than welcome. So, have a move that we move into committee.
I'll move that.
Seconder.